Hello, hello, hello. How is everybody today? Let me know that you can hear me, you can see me, and do tell me where you are. Right there. Now, there's the camera. That's where I should be looking. Let me just close off my monitor here because I was just monitoring to make sure that we were live. So let me make sure that you can hear me. Say hello. Tell me where you're from. Let me know if you are excited about this live. And what we're going to talk about is storytelling. NYC. It's been a while since I've been there, 2 years actually, and I do look forward to going back. My wife wants to go right now, but obviously we can't. We're waiting a little while. New Mexico, Idaho, Austin, Texas, Brownstown, Missouri. Ah, Diane. Hello, hello, hello from Wisconsin, and not Montana. And Diane is excited. Well, I am actually excited to be here as well. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Just let me know that you can. Jamaica, Southern California, Los Angeles. Well, welcome from Barcelona, Spain, where it's not bad actually. It's quite warm during the day and a little bit cold at night. But I want to start with teaching you something, and it's an Irish expression that you say to people. And the expression is, what's the story? But you don't say it like that. You say, what's the story? What's the story? So repeat after me, what's the story? And that basically means what's new, what's happening. People like to hear stories. Now, can anybody tell me why people like to hear stories? Why? Angela is from cold and rainy London. I used to live in Dublin, Angela, so I know, I can feel the pain there. What's the story exactly? So, why do people like stories, and why are stories useful, and why do you have to become a storyteller? And then we're going to talk about visual storytelling. Um, so I've asked you lots of questions, so I want to hear. Well, I want to see your responses to why stories are important, and I'm going to tell you a story. Okay. And I'm going to tell you a story that hopefully you will actually see and be engaged by them. Okay, Christina. Fierce Fitness. Stories are relatable. People like to hear stories because they can relate to them. Yes. So there's an art to telling a story. And you may, if you've seen or talked to me, you may have seen on previous videos that I talked about AIDA. Let me just type that in, AIDA. You have to grab people's attention. Okay. Um, Let me tell you a story about a champion that I live beside. Okay. Seems quite interesting, right? Now, this is actually a true story, and I'm just going to share my screen because I posted this story on LinkedIn. And what I actually did was I went in and I went to PLR.me library, and I decided that what I would do is I would actually look for a wallpaper. Now, you may or may not know that we have a lot of wallpapers in the PLR.me library. And what wallpapers are images that you can use on social media. You can use them on wallpapers for your computer. You may remember they were really popular years ago that you'd have a nice wallpaper on the back screen of your computer. You could use them in emails, in blog posts. But this can be the starting point of your story. Now, I wanted to look for something about champions. I'll just put in champion. And I went and I looked and I found a number of different wallpapers. And the one that I wanted was this one. Okay, champion is someone who gets up. Okay, and let me just bring it up here. So a champion is someone who gets up when he can't. And if I just go in and I have a look for that image, I have it here. Let me just bring it over here. The image comes in different file formats. Well, file sizes rather than file formats. And you will see that there are different sizes there, from big to small to wide to slightly longer than the width, etc. So there's lots of different formats there that you can use for your Instagram post, for your LinkedIn post. Okay, so here I have attracted attention. By going to LinkedIn, I post this image, but I do a little bit more than that. I want to garner interest in my post. So what do? I have an interesting hook or a deadline, a headline. And my headline was, I live beside a champion. And you know who that is? And that's a question for you. Do you know who this champion is that I live beside? I'm going to just stop my screen share here because I want to see your answer. So, who is the champion that I live beside? Well, I'm going to tell you because you're not gonna guess. She's my next door neighbor. She is the champion of an event called the Ascension and Descension Stairs. And you're going to go, huh? What do you mean? She is a champion in walking down from the first floor to the actual ground floor of the apartment building. And she's a champion. Okay. And you might say, well, okay, that's got my attention, my interest. And I have a desire to find out more about that. So, in a nutshell, we're getting renovations done in our apartment building. The lift is out of order. We live on the first floor, which in Spain is actually the second floor because the first floor is actually what they call in between floors, entre suelos, and it means in between floors. So your first floor is your second floor. A little bit confusing. But so we live, let's say, on the second floor. And our next door neighbor has been in training, and I kid you not, to actually go up and down the stairs with her minder. Now, here's the interesting thing. Our next door neighbor is 91 years of age. She is, she's an absolute star because she said the lift may be broken, but that's not going to stop me. I have to get out of the apartment. I cannot stay in the apartment for 3 months while they're basically renovating the whole lift, putting in a new lift. So she started practicing walking up and down the stairs with her minder. And the other day I saw her. We were sitting out at the terrace of a bar just in front of our house, and she came down and she was in her wheelchair, which she had stored away downstairs so that she could be wheeled out of the building. And she was like that. And she inspired me to tell that story, that she was a champion. Now, why is she a champion? Because like the image that I put up there and the quote, which is a champion is someone who gets up when he can't. Now, I believe that's what she did. She wasn't maybe able to do this, but she did it. Okay. So I could have started this story as, my next door neighbor is 91 and she didn't want to be housebound. So she decided to walk down the stairs every day because the lift was broken. Would that catch the attention? Probably not. Okay. So when you become a storyteller, you want to make sure that what you do is that you actually plan out your story. Now, when I talk about plan out your story, first of all, what is the objective of your story? Okay. You want to look at saying, okay, there has to be an objective to the story because I want people to take action. That's the last part of the AIDA. Okay, attention, interest, a desire. Maybe it's to read, maybe it's to contact you, but you want them to take action. So my action step in that story was, what is the challenge that you're having in your life and what excuses are you making for not doing it? Because my next door neighbor who's 91, who also broke her arm during COVID, and she was housebound, if she can do this, you can do anything that you want in life. So that was the idea behind the story. Now, if I had just told the story, as I said, you can do anything in your life if you really try. What do you think? I mean, would you be interested in that? Probably not. Okay. So the first thing is you have to know about your story. You have to think about the story that you want to tell. You then want to have some sort of action that's going to be taken at the end of the story. And then in between the the start of the story and the middle of the story, you need to tell the story. You need to engage people as well, because it all depends on how you say something and how you tell it. I mean, why are certain public figures really, really interesting? Because they engage. Okay. They make you, they give you that D of desire to do something. That desire can be um, to form a movement. That desire can be to pick up the phone and contact them. But they make you get a desire to take an action. Okay. So now that I've told you a little bit about the story, I'm going to take any questions because I want to get on to the next part of the training. Any questions? Attention, interest, and desire, and then action. That's what the D stands for. So let me know if you have any questions so far about what we've just talked about. Okay, D is desire. So, stories. Let's go all the way back. Okay. Now, this is one of the things that you can do with storytelling, and you can open a loop. You can say something, but not finish your the whole thought about that until later on. Okay, like a cliffhanger. Um, so stories are good. Why? Because stories are just stories after all. I mean, it's something that happened to somebody else, and maybe there's a moral, but it's not that I'm lecturing you. Now, I remember my uncle Seamus back in Dublin. He used to be a great storyteller. He'd always say to you, pull up an old chair there, and we'd sit by the fire, and he'd tell me a story about when he was young. And I remember he told me this one particular story, and he said to me, Richie, he said, this is a story about a young lad who didn't know what he wanted to do in life. And you know what the advice was that he told me? He said the young lad was told that he should do whatever the heart desires and not to follow the crowd. And I always remember that story, and it had an impact. But you see, what that does is that tells me a moral without my Uncle Seamus, who I didn't have an Uncle Seamus, but that's beside the point because it's all a story. But that tells me a moral without lecturing me. I mean, if I had said to you, for example, if I had said, Diane, this is what you have to do. Well, I'm lecturing you. But if I said, Diane, I've worked with a lot of clients. And I remember one client in particular, my Uncle Seamus. And he asked me, can I apply this to my website? And I said, of course you can, Uncle Seamus. Uncle Seamus was selling leprechaun souvenirs. And I said, of course you can do that. You have to get the attention, the interest, the desire. Okay. I have told you this story, but I'm telling you what you need to do. Okay. So stories allow us to relax a little bit because they're just something nice. I mean, it's not a lecture. So storytelling is something that you have to become good at. Okay. Go Genius Academy says they remember Uncle Seamus too. That's great. Okay, so a very interesting question here from Cheryl. How do you entice somebody who doesn't want to take action, specifically getting tested for hearing loss? Okay, it's a very specific one. Um, I mean, the first thing that you have to do is you have to match your story to the outcome that you want. Okay. So, I mean, if the outcome is somebody has to get tested for hearing loss, maybe you have to think about a story. I don't know. You go, you find a graphic that is about the joys of hearing the bird singing, and you post that. I mean, I'm taking this on a very general basis, but you post that on your social media, and you talk about, you know, have you ever just sat outside and just listened to the sound of the passing traffic or of nature if you're sitting in the park? I mean, what a feeling that was. Well, I remember my uncle Jimmy, who for some reason started to lose his hearing. And he was so scared of not being able to hear that he went to get his ears tested or to get his hearing tested. And the company recommended that he get a really small little um, uh, hearing aid put into his ear, super discreet. And Uncle Jimmy was able to enjoy those amazing sounds of nature. So what I'm trying to do here is, I mean, I'm trying to build up that desire for them to take that action. Now, obviously, I would need more time to construct the story, etc. Um, but you have to think about how you are going to construct the story. Now, before I answer the questions, I mean, the social media medium that you use doesn't really matter as long as you're matching the story to the medium. I mean, I always say to people, LinkedIn is more business orientated. Facebook, LinkedIn is like going to the conference. Okay, all the business people are there, and Facebook is more like when you go to have drinks afterwards. It's more for relaxing. So certain stories are best on Facebook, certain stories are best on LinkedIn, and other stories are best on Instagram. You could do a series of images. Okay. Um, you always want to make sure that you know what the outcome is of the story. I mean, you don't just tell a story for the sake of it. My uncle Seamus was great. He had a shop selling leprechaun items, souvenirs, and then he put it online. And yeah, thanks for listening to my story. No. I remember my uncle Seamus, who was starting to struggle with his business because there weren't that many tourists coming to his little town in the outskirts of Dublin to visit. So what he did was he actually went off and he decided to hire somebody to help him build an e-commerce store. And now you'd probably think an e-commerce store for leprechauns is a little bit strange, but you're not going to believe how popular it became, because you see, people wanted to find these souvenirs and have this memory of Ireland, even though they mightn't have been able to go to physically buy it. So he hired some people to design a website, and it wasn't as expensive as he thought, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so you build up the story like that. Okay, you build it up slowly, but you know what the objective is. So listen, don't be like Uncle Seamus, or be like Uncle Seamus, and get yourself a website. Okay, so whatever it may be like that. Now, Daryl says some people are just natural storytellers. Do I have any thoughts on that? Well, I mean, the more stories you read, the more posts you read, the better you will become as well at storytelling. I mean, yes, it's an art, but the more you practice, it's like anything, you know. I can say, I'm not very good at playing squash. So how often do you practice? Oh, well, I don't because I'm not very good at it. Okay, well, then you're not going to get any better at it. So the more you practice, the better you become. Okay. No matter what part of business you're in, you need to think about telling those stories. Okay. And bringing storytelling into your business. Now, let's just go over to the PLR.me site because I want to just show you how you can actually start your storytelling. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and here we are. Okay, and I might just put in sound just to see if I have anything about sound here. Okay, and I'm going to search for everything, and then I'm just going to go into wallpapers, and let's have a look and see what comes up. And this is completely live that I'm doing this. I didn't prepare that question with Cheryl. Okay. No matter how difficult and painful it may be, nothing sounds as good as this to the soul as truth. Sound is the vocabulary of nature. That's quite nice. The sounds of nature bring peace. Now I think this one looks good, Cheryl. The sounds of nature bring peace when my soul is restless. Well, you could use this as the start of your story. So you publish this on your social media, and you may say, sometimes we feel restless. And one of the best ways that I found when I was restless, so I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about me, but the best way that I found when I was restless was to go out and sit in nature. And I used to do this day in and day out when I was restless, because every day I got a little bit restless because of stress of work, etc. And then one day I thought, what if there was just silence? And what if I couldn't hear nature all around me? I mean, that would really, I don't know how I'd feel. So I did start to notice as I got older that I couldn't, it seemed that the volume had gone down in nature. And I asked one of my friends, I said, has everything just got lower or is it me? And they turned to me and they said, Richard, I think it could be you. And let me give you one piece of advice. My Uncle Seamus, good old Uncle Seamus, he also felt that the volume in life was being turned down. So what he did was he took preventive action, and he actually went to get a proper test done of his hearing. And you know what? The technology is amazing. And Uncle Seamus got, it was just some minuscule thing put into his ear, like a little hearing aid that was so small. And now he is full of the joys of life because he can hear perfectly. So, in some senses, what I've done there is I've layered this with this is about me. Okay. This is about me having problems with my hearing. But then a sub layer is somebody else gave me the advice. So I'm not giving you the advice even in my story. I mean, somebody else has given me the advice on a lower level. So it's not that I'm saying you have to go out and you have to do that. Okay. So is that giving you an idea? Well, I think Cheryl has just said awesome there. If somebody else wants to throw in an idea, and we'll see how we can go about this story. And, I have to also tell you the key thing to storytelling as well. I mean, the image is the first part. Now, what if you can't tell a story yet? Well, you could take one of our wallpapers and you could post it on Instagram or on LinkedIn, and you could ask people, does that quote resonate with you? Let me know your story. Okay. And you could ask people for their thoughts about that. Um, so that's where you need to start all of this idea. Now, I mean, if you want to get into storytelling, and when we talk about visual, I'm talking about painting a picture with the words, not just the visual that starts the idea. Okay. What you want to do is you want to be able to paint pictures with words. And that is by showing people something rather than telling them. Okay. It was a sunny day in Barcelona. I walked outside and I could just feel the heat of the sun on my skin. So much so that I said, I'm going to have to just open up my hoodie. And it was so bright that I just sat on the nearest bench. I just looked up at the sun with my eyes closed, of course. But you see the way I'm not just saying it was a sunny day and it was very hot in Barcelona. I'm trying to show people with the actual words. Okay. How do you change a student's mindset from can do to can't do? So that's a very interesting one. Okay. So I'm just going to take that. Let me just share my screen. And I just have to push things around here. So let me share my screen here. And what I'm going to do, or what I've done is I've just actually gone in here and I've changed the keyword search to can. Okay. Everybody says they want to be free. If you have a voice within you, say, okay. So, I mean, what about this one? Mr. Vincent van Gogh, who said, if you hear a voice within you, say, you cannot paint, then by all means paint, and that voice will be silenced. Now, I don't know about you, but I mean, when I look at the great artists across all disciplines, and especially painters, I think I could never do that. And the funny thing is that I always believed that I couldn't paint. And I never actually started because I had this belief of I can't. So then I thought to myself, what would happen if I just tried? So I got out some paints and I made a mess on a page. And I looked at it and I said, okay, it's not great. So then I started the next day to paint a little bit more. And I got a little bit more of something on the page. But I was kind of intrigued about this whole paint thing. So I started to look up tutorials on YouTube. And I found one tutorial. Well, actually, it wasn't a tutorial. It was actually a video about mindset that said, if you say you can't, you won't be able to do it. And I think the person who was on the video said it was Henry Ford. That may have it was a paraphrase of something that Henry Ford had said. If you can't, if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. And I thought, yeah, well, who's to say that I can't paint? And of course, I felt I wouldn't be the next Van Gogh, but I mean, I could paint. So every day I started to practice, and I thought of those words of Henry Ford. If you think you can, you can't. If you think you can, you can. And if you think you can't, you're right. That was the quote, I think it was. And from that day forth, I just thought, well, I'm going to give everything a try. Because if I don't try, I don't know what I can do. And if I do try and I fail, I can always learn from my failures. And that is a lesson. Guess who told me that lesson? You're right. Uncle Seamus told me that lesson. Okay, so that could be a starting point that you could use. And you could post that on social media. Now, let's see what else we have under mindset. I can create a clear set of directions when you feel copied. Don't waste a single second. Assert your right to make a few mistakes. Let's have a look. If people can't accept your imperfections, that's their fault. Okay. You could use this as a inspiration as well. Okay. Dr. David Byrne said that to assert your right to make a few mistakes, assert your right to make a few mistakes. If people can't accept your imperfections, that's their fault. And that made me think, like, why wouldn't I try jogging? I mean, if I don't jog perfectly, whatever jogging perfectly is, and I kind of run a bit awkwardly, well, that's okay. I will get into the rhythm of it. But so instead of me saying I can't jog, I thought I'll say, well, if you don't like the way I jog, that's okay. I don't care. And I'm thinking here, and this could be how you could use this. If you ever watched Friends, you may remember there was an episode with Phoebe who was a really awkward jogger, but she just did it anyway. And she didn't care what people thought. So I've adopted that philosophy of Phoebe to just do what I want to do. And if I can, I'm going to try. And if I can't, I'm still going to try. So something like that. I mean, you could start with something like that. Um, how does that, how does that resonate with you? Okay. About the changing a student's mindset. I mean, you would have to work on it, but I would bring storytelling in. Now, there is I mean, if you want to look it up, Joseph Campbell does talk about the hero's journey when you are writing stories. Okay. And I mean, the basic plot of every story that you watch, every movie that you watch is, normal Joe or Josephine Soap is living a normal life when they're called to do something extraordinary. And they feel that they can't actually do it, but they're compelled to try. And then they go off on this big adventure, and eventually they succeed. And then they have to make a decision. Do they go back to their humble life, or do they continue fighting for justice? Okay. The prime example of this is something like what I would call the original Star Wars from the 70s, 80s. The first Star Wars movie that I saw, where Luke Skywalker, finds this droid, and then the droid asks him to take action to save the universe, and he doesn't think he can, and then he goes out and he does, and then he decides to continue his journey. Or did he go backwards in time or forwards in time? Because there were so many Star Wars that I lost count. But the idea there is a hero's journey. Okay. So you need to think about that. Now, I mean, that's getting into advanced storytelling. As I said, the visual part comes in A, getting the attention with one of our wallpapers, and B, with actually painting a story. Now, what is the one thing that you must do on social media when you are telling a story? And I'm going to take a drink. What is the one thing that you may or you must do? Can you think what it might be? Oh, and by the way, I forgot to say it to you that if you are enjoying this storytelling video, give us a like, give us a thumbs up. Well, that was a like and a thumbs up. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Leave a little note in the chat there when you've actually given this video a like, just so that I know that you have done it, and that I can continue telling you stories. Also, make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and share the channel with everybody and anybody. And of course, if you want me to tell you a story, and you can greet me on the call with, all right, Rich, what's the story? You can book a call with me. Now, this is available for people who have not had a call with me before, whether you're a paid member or a free member, or you're thinking of signing up, but you're not sure. Jump on a call with me. What we will do is we will look to see what your niche or niche is, who your audience are, and come up with a plan of how you can use our content. And, on that call, I can advise you on the content that you should be using or that you might be using. I can give you some strategies, some ideas. And then if you don't have a membership yet, I can advise you on what membership is best for you, whether you just go for pay as you go or whether you go for a different membership. I can go through all of that with you. And I think people enjoy the calls with me, if I may say so. Okay. So what is important? Okay. Go Genius Academy says be authentic. Yes. Okay. So you must be authentic. I mean, there was a marketer that I followed, and I won't mention him by name, and very well known. And he always came across as a surfer dude. That'll give it away if anybody has followed him. And it was quite interesting because years later, he revealed that no, this was just a persona. I mean, this was a guy who said, I did this really weird marketing trick He said, that's all I can call her. I mean, I didn't mean to go out and sell $20,000 of my product. And it just happened. And he gave the impression that he was just a laid back surfer dude. And this was a persona that he had built up. Now, the persona that he built up seemed quite authentic. But then when he revealed that, he was the astute businessman behind it, and he revealed, no, this is who I really am, then I didn't feel that he was that authentic. I mean, if you build up a story and then people feel that you're not authentic, or they hear that that's not the real you, that can have a detrimental effect. So be authentic, yes. Interesting. Have a hook. I mean, the hook is the most important part. I don't go fishing, but for my fishermen friends, they have told me that in order to catch a good fish, you have to have good bait on your hook. So the bait is what gets the attention of the fish, and then they get hooked. Literally, they get hooked. So you must have a good hook. I mean, if I say my next door neighbor is 91 and she's really good at climbing stairs, I don't know. I live beside a champion. Oh, well, I'm interested to know what this is about. But I give the hook and I deliver. And I say, she's not the type of champion that you may be thinking of. She's a champion in her own right. Okay. So you need to spend time thinking about the hook. Okay. Angie has liked, thumbs up. I'm loving this. Diane did. Well, here's an interesting one here from Annette. Have a low point or conflict. Well, this brings me into an area that I wanted to talk about, and I'm just going to make a note here because I want to get back to it, about conflict, and I want to talk about being authentic as well. So let me just come back to that because it's an excellent point. Okay, thank you, Esteban, for liked and subscribed. Done, subscribed weeks ago. Okay, lots of thumbs up. Love the content. Be yourself. That's your power. Okay. You have to be engaging. I mean, I hope that I'm engaging you after 38 minutes of this live. And I would hope that I'd have the gift of the gab, the old Irish thing from me, Uncle Seamus and me, Auntie Seamus as well. Seamus Etta was my auntie, Seamus Etta. But I mean, you have to practice. Now, people might say, but Richard, I mean, you seem to be quite natural on camera. But I wasn't always like that. I mean, if you go to my YouTube channel and you look at videos that I did 15 years ago, I mean, I'm embarrassed by them now, but I leave them there because it's a good reference point. If you look at the videos that I started doing for PLR.me a number of years ago, I was like, hi, my name is Richard, and I want to talk to you about PLR.me. And I was timid, but I kept showing up. You have to keep showing up. You have to be yourself. I mean, don't try and be somebody else because it won't come naturally. I mean, if I try and be like, yo, people, what's going on? It's not me. Okay. I inject my little bit of Irish humor, as my wife likes to call it, that she says nobody understands, but that's okay. I inject that. I have a laugh. I enjoy myself. I mean, if people, when people work with me, my private clients, I always say to them, my style is very easygoing but professional. I mean, I don't turn up in a suit. Me, I'm a hoodie kind of guy, t-shirt. I wear shirts now and again, but I mean, I'm not going to turn up in a suit to go on a call with you. But that's my style. I don't try to be anything else. Pardon me. Okay. You need to be engaging. I mean, you need to think about the tone of your voice as well, because, in this YouTube live, I want to tell you about the importance of telling stories, because stories are very important and I really like stories. No, you got to say, hey, on this YouTube live, I want to tell you a story. And you see, stories are so important because you have to be authentic and engage people. So I have changed the pace of my voice. I've elongated words like you have to engage people, not you have to engage people. So think about that as well. Now, we're talking about video here, but we can talk about storytelling of writing as well. But you have to keep interested. This is how geeky I can get because in talks with Ronnie, Ronnie's always pushing me to push the videos to a higher and higher level. And I spend, I might spend a couple of hours every week just watching how different videos are made. But the next time you're looking at a Netflix series or a movie, count how long it is until the camera changes to another scene. Maybe the camera's here, and then the camera looks like that, and then the camera looks like that. It's maybe 10 or 15 seconds. Now, having said that, of course, it'd be great if I had multi-cameras here so that you wouldn't be just staring at my face all the time. And of course, now you're going to be checking my videos to see how often I change scenes in the camera. But this is part of breaking the monotony of telling a good story. Okay. Okay, engage with those. If you comment, again, one of the first things that I will say to you on a call is define your niche carefully, because if you know who your niche are, you can tell them stories that they will relate to. I mean, if I say that I am a coach who helps African American ladies in their 60s to find dates, I mean, I'm not going to be able to do that. A, I'm not a lady. B, I'm not in my 60s. C, I don't know about the African American culture that will resonate enough for them to work with me. Okay. Now, if I say I help Irish coaches who are abroad bring their message to the people in the country that they're residing in, people who are living in Spain who are maybe coaches will say, oh, well, that might be the guy that could help me. Okay. So know your market, because then you can relate. I mean, you could say, well, I remember when I first came to Spain and I didn't know how to break into the market of coaching. But the one thing I did know is that people love the Irish. So blah, 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 blah. Okay. You want to be able to tell your story or tell a story, should I say, and relate it back to people. Okay. And the only way you're going to relate back to people is relating it to people that you know, to the culture that you're from, to the country that you're from, to the age group that you're from. I mean, I'm not going to go for relationship advice to a 20-year-old who's going to tell me how to overcome a divorce. I mean, because he doesn't know or she doesn't know. But if I'm going through something, and I was on a client call today, and I was talking to the client, and I was saying, you need to focus in on the people that resonate with you, the people who are your age, who will say, well, this guy knows what I've been through. So I'm a relationship coach for men between 40 to 50 who are going through a divorce, because I went through one before. And that's going to lead me into one of the final points. Okay. Contana says, you definitely have the gift of gab. You provide great information. Thank you. James says, you do have the gift. Okay. Thank you very much. Martha says, I'm interested in a call, consult. So you can just go into PLR.me /book a call, and you can jump on a call with me. You need to generate emotion, okay? Because that's also going to help. But can you use storytelling on your website? Well, yes, of course. And one of the most important stories that you want to talk about is your backstory, who you are, how you came to become this coach. Okay. You want people, to see that you overcame conflict. I mean, if you said, hey, I was born to a really rich family, and I've just had everything I wanted in life. And yeah, I know a lot about dating and relationships and how to treat people because, I just have the money to be able to do all those things. That's not going to entice me to work with you if I want to know how to become a better person when it comes to relationships. I mean, but if I go to a website and it says, hey, my name is Daryl and I help men who have gone through heartache. I mean, I know what it's like because when it first happened to me, my heart was ripped out completely. I mean, I felt just so sad every day. But I was able to recover. It was a long journey, but I recovered. And now I have a 6-step process that I use to help people just like you to recover and get back into a loving relationship. Now, suddenly I've identified with that person. I've seen that they had the same conflict that I have, and they are somebody that I want to work with. Okay. So I'm digressing. We're talking a lot about storytelling, which hopefully people are happy with the way we're going. But the idea is that you want to make sure that you um, relate to people, that you talk to people, that it's not just you tell them information. It's a story. I mean, I'm working with one client, and she's in recruitment, and we're working on crafting LinkedIn posts because recruiters have problems with crafting LinkedIn posts. Recruiters just put a post like, I've got a job, please apply, exciting role. It's not very good. So in this particular post, and I'm not going to go into the post so that she's not identified, but in this particular post, she had what I thought was the hook, and which turned out to be the hook at the very bottom of the page, the bottom of the post. And I said, no, this is what's going to grab people's attention. This is what's going to get them interested. This is going to give them the desire to take the next step or to take the action, okay, that they need. So you need to think about that really, really, really careful, okay? You need to think, what am I going to post and why? And how am I going to take action? I mean, don't throw something up on LinkedIn or Facebook or on any other social media without thinking it through a little bit. The more you think it through, the better you will become. And the next time it'll become easier to actually, your next story, etc. Now, what is the most important thing that you must do on any post on social media? Thank you, guys. Thank you, Chanda. Well, I'm going to tell you, the most important thing to do is ask for engagement. Because you see, we live in a society of neat, boom, 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 depending what app that you're using, or boom, 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 depending what app you're using. You want to make sure that you ask, you ask, or you have a call to action, which is even as simple as, what are your thoughts about this quote? How can you take this quote this week and implement it into your life? Something as simple as that can start to engage people. You need to ask for engagement. Why? You could have the most beautiful story and you could have, 100 views on that. But if people are not engaging, if people are not sharing that, well, then what happens is the algorithm, all the various algorithms that are on social media, may not pick it up and may not push it out to the right people. So a simple, what do you think of that quote? How can that quote serve you this week? What are your tips for becoming more at one with nature? Okay. That is very important. And yeah, we're talking about visual storytelling. So the first thing that will stop people on LinkedIn, for example, because I'm doing a lot of work on LinkedIn at the moment, is a nice visual. Okay. I have a post that I'm formulating. And the hook that I'm going to have is, I'm incompetent. And I know that's going to stop people, because how could I, as I work with senior managers, helping them improve their English in the recruiting industry, how am I going to say I'm incompetent? I mean, I want to read what that person means. So that's going to be the hook. Now, I haven't fully crafted it yet, but you can keep an eye on my LinkedIn if you can find me. But that's going to be the hook. And then I'm going to do the reveal of why I am like that. Okay, or why I am incompetent. Hey, Regina, is there a time frame for storytelling for social media website? Now, by a time frame, do you mean how long should it be? If you do mean that, I mean, if it's a video for social media, maybe a minute, 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes. If it's an 8-minute video, unless it's super engaging and it's a high production video, people may not stay to the end. Okay. So I would, a 2-minute video, hey, today I'm going to talk to you about the reasons why you are not progressing in your career. 3 simple reasons. 1, 2, 3. Can you think of any other reasons? Let me know in the comments below. Okay, super simple. A picture of a big stop sign. Why are you stopping yourself from progressing? Well, hold on, I'm not stopping myself from progressing. Well, actually, maybe you are. And then they read. But you give the visual. You give the visual stimulus, then you give the hook, the attention, you draw in some interest, they have a desire to find out more, and then they take action. Okay. So, that's one thing. I mean, I do a lot of research on YouTube when I want to buy something. I have a couple of things in mind that I want to buy. And if I see a 45-minute, in-depth review, I'm kind of like, I'll watch it, but I'll skim through it. I mean, if I saw an 8-minute review, I would probably watch the whole review in one go. Now, you want to think about that as well. I mean, if you're posting on social media, you don't want to have 5 pages of text basically with your story. It's something short because you want them to take action. If they want the full length video, they can go to your website. If they want the full length explanation, they can go to your website. Think of how movie trailers work. 90 seconds that show super, super concentrated and vast amounts of action that people go, wow, I want to see that movie. Okay. Go Genius Academy said, which is true, reel them in, ask questions. Okay. So we're coming up to the 53-minute mark. What questions, what comments, what thoughts do you have for me? And let me see if I can answer any questions live. And remember to like this video if you liked it. Leave a comment, and book a call if you haven't booked a call already. And let's talk. Let's see. So hey Savita, I was wondering where you were. I was saying, has Savita missed it? Here's a compliment, if I ever saw one, and if I can blow my own trumpet. Time flies during these trainings. I mean, that's just fantastic. Thank you so much. But the idea is, hook people in. Okay, I have this little guy here. This was me this morning. Okay, I woke up and I was so angry. Why? Well, let me tell you. And then I tell a story. I mean, you have the visual there. I could, if I was doing a video, I could hold that up to the camera. That was me 6 months ago when I worked in the corporate world, or 10 months ago, or however long it's been. I used to always have to go suited and booted, and I was angry. And then I tell the story. Okay. How do we book a call? If you go to PLR.me, book a call, you can go there and you can book in a call. Diane says, show us around PLR.me a bit more. How can we use it and apply it? We have some training videos. If you go to PLR.me/videos, which will walk you through all of the basics. I mean, on these trainings, what we like to do is give you really powerful information to actually take the content and do a lot more. But a simple search, you go to PLR.me. I'll do that just in 1 second. Actually, I'll do that now, just really quickly, since you mentioned it. Let me just go here. Okay, and you should see my screen there. I mean, a simple way around PLR.me is you can go to products. You can choose a popular category here. You can search by keyword motivation. Search all of our results. Or if you were just looking for a wallpaper, you would just choose wallpaper, or you could choose articles or journals or challenges. And then you would just go in here and then you would just click on search. You would download the item and then you would start to actually use that yourself. Okay, so a very quick whistle stop tour there. Should you focus on the transformation or the end result? And that, well, you should allude to it. But when they want the transformation or the end result, then they go to your website and they download something. And then they get a freebie, and then you try and sell them the end result or the transformation. Okay, so don't give away too much in your stories. I mean, don't show them the how. You can show them what they need to do. You can tell them this is what you have to do, but you don't show them how to do it. The length of a video on a website, well, it's an interesting question, Regina. It should be as long as it needs to be without having any fluff. Okay, so I mean, again, start with the end in mind. What is the objective? The objective is to sell my coaching program. If your coaching program is valued at $27, I'm not going to sit through a 2-hour presentation. I mean, if your coaching program is $50,000, I want to know the ins and outs of it. So I want more information. So always think about that. Okay. Tiffany asks, after the free 30-minute call with you, how do we connect for another call after that, and what is the cost? Tiffany, if you reach out to us or if you reach out to me, I can go through all of that with you. Richard at PLR.me. Okay. Gogina says you can arrange that with the man during a free call. I presume that's me. Martha, I think I mentioned it, to book a call, PLR.me / book a call just here. You can just book in there. Okay, guys, so we've done a lot. We've talked a lot about storytelling in this training. I think people are excited. I mean, I want you to take action. So I want you to type into the comments before we finish up, I'm going to take action. I want to see you do that so that I can hold you to it in the next live that we do. Because, doing all these trainings is great. And look at that. That's really weird. This pen, which I believe I got, actually, I could have got in New York. The power of the written word. So you need to think of the power of the written word and tell a story with the written word. But you want to make sure that you take action. I mean, as simple as finding a wallpaper, putting up on Instagram, and just telling a short story about it on LinkedIn, on Facebook. Okay. Okay, let's have a look. Who's taking action? Diane is taking action. Natural Living by Design is taking action. Go Genius Academy is going to take action. I am going to take action literally today, says Cheryl. Successful Children, I'm taking action. I'm taking action. Okay, there's going to be a lot of action taking this week, and I am so proud of you guys. Next week, we're going to do a 2-parter. So keep an eye out in your email for that. We're going to, I didn't want to say too much there, but we're going to do a 2-part training. We're going to have training part 1 and training part 2. That's why it's called a two-part training. I know it's a great name, a two-part training, part 1 and part 2. So that's what I want you to be ready for next week. I want you to start thinking of your stories, because what we're going to do next week is going to tie in really nicely with this. And we've got some amazing stuff coming up. Everybody is all in, taking action. I'm taking action. Excellent. All right, guys, I'm going to take some action now, and I'm going to say goodbye to you, and I will see you next week. All right, take action and make sure that you watch out for that email for next week. Talk to you then. Bye, guys.